name is Mnonkwa. I'm a practitioner of the occult, a witch, a psychologist, an art therapist, and shadow worker, amongst other things. My intention behind launching this Patreon page was to create a closed, private environment where I can share and create freely. Because of my work in the mental health field, I need to maintain a certain level of secrecy to ensure the safety of my identity. So creating this Patreon ensures that while still allowing me to share what I love. So what do I have to offer? In short, I want to offer my knowledge and experience in an interactive format that can be beneficial for your personal growth. I believe that the main purpose of engaging in spiritual practices is self-mastery through growth, healing, and exploration of one's consciousness and the unconscious to attain a fulfilling life. I divided my offerings into 3 main pillars. The first is shadow work, then Futhark pathworking, and the last one is chaos witchcraft. Apart from those 3 pillars, I wish to offer various other interactive content based on my current interests and workings. So, for example, that could be creative sessions, book recommendations and reviews, personal processes, and resources or snippets from my personal practice. Now, I wish to tell you a bit about my approach and background. When it comes to shadow work, I'm especially passionate about the shadow archetypes of femininity, such as the dark goddess, as well as inner child work and the mother wound. My personal journey in the shadows has led me to reclaiming my feminine aspects of self, as well as uncovering childhood trauma and healing my mother wound. I believe that in order to do successful shadow work, it's not enough to dig in our current triggers and unhealthy tendencies or maladaptive patterns of behavior, but to carefully examine the entirety of our development, which means that we start that uncovering from our childhood. A lot of this work is best done with the support of a trained specialist, but I believe that we are not completely powerless in this regard, and we can successfully self-heal if we pay attention, if we take it seriously, and if we support ourselves with good literature on the subject. When it comes to Futhark, it has been a part of my life for around 15 years now, as I continue to be a perpetual and humble student of the system. Rune work goes much deeper beyond the mainstream use for divination or bind runes. Working with the Futhark is a complete spiritual path in and of itself. Over the years, I've been longing to share my knowledge and experience about runic pathworking, Galdra, Stadra Galdr, runic magic, runic meditation and healing, and in general the runic perception of the world. I would love to take you on this kind of initiatory journey of guided meditations and pathworkings, from embodying the archetype of Odin as the first initiate of the runic mysteries through the 24 runes of the Elder Futhark to the exploration of the Web of Weird. Chaos witchcraft is a term that best describes my practice of magic. Early on in my journey, I discovered chaos magic, which has been a system that I grew to appreciate more and more over the years. Having a degree in psychology and being naturally non-religious, my perception of the world, both within and without, operates on psychological terms. Being rather incapable of having faith in the supernatural, I feel satisfied with the perception that everything that I experience occurs in accordance with the laws of nature. Therefore, everything and every phenomena that is occurring in the natural world is natural as opposed to supernatural. That said, I believe that there is no right or wrong way of perceiving and practicing the craft. Each of us is wired differently and has different inherent needs when it comes to the perception of reality. For some people, it is more fulfilling and meaningful to perceive reality as fantastical and supernatural, and for others, it's the opposite. The only important factor here is whether the way we perceive reality fills our life with existential meaning or not. So, what is meaningful for me may not be meaningful for you, and vice versa. Coming from the perspective of chaos witchcraft, I practice things such as suspension of disbelief, which means that I use belief as a tool, avoiding dogma, knowing thyself as the main goal of the practice, as well as experimental methods of the craft and personal gnosis, and no-hand path, which means something in between the left-hand path and the right-hand path. One of the most influential paradigms in terms of my practice has been Jungian psychology. The concepts of personal and collective unconscious, shadow work, archetype work, active imagination, and dream work. And lastly, the unique flavor that I add to the mix is related to my ethnicity, which is Slavic. Having experience and particular interest in ancestry veneration and the exploration of one's roots, as well as ancestral shadow work, my witchcraft is heavily sprinkled with the influence of Slavic paganism, which I would love to share with you. While getting yourself acquainted with my offerings for each of those Patreon tiers, please bear in mind that the content will be published twice a month at minimum. One written format content and one video or podcast content. There might be more than 2 a month, but definitely won't be less than that. So you will be updated via a post whenever I apply any changes to my schedule, any changes to the tiers or to the content itself. Advanced contents, such as for the tiers of Witch and Thaumaturge especially, will usually take more labor and time to produce due to the nature of the content itself. In practice, this means that some months there might be more content for some tiers and less for others. The reason why I decided to go with this format is to stay affordable and accessible for as many people as possible. Please also bear in mind that I reserve the right to choose which questions I want to answer or what suggested content I want to produce based on whether or not I feel comfortable sharing or am interested in sharing for whatever reason. Thank you so much for taking the time to become acquainted with my offerings, and I do hope to see you around.